What's up, guys? Matt here, coming at you with a quick little shootout between the Furitek Cayman and the brand new Furitek FX118. So I had a lot of people curious about, how these would compare. The Cayman, you can pick it up a couple different ways, but if you get the $199 version, which is the same price as this, you're going to get this truck basically without the ESC, transmitter, receiver, wheels and tires, or body. So you're kind of getting a somewhat roller, but you get the micro Komodo motor with it. And then you just add those things. This, for the $199, is completely ready to run. But a lot of times we have our transmitter that we're ready to use in one of these. We have the wheels and tires, so we're going to ditch the stock wheels and tires off of this. A lot of people are not huge fans of this Power Wagon body, so maybe you want to go a different way with that. So it's going to come down to really, you get the ESC with this and you don't this, so around the same price. That's basically what it comes down to, in my opinion. Now, this one is FCX24 transmission and FCX portal axle based, whereas this one is more just CR18P based with the CR18P portal axles and transmission and stuff. So with this Cayman, you're going to get the micro Komodo motor. With the FX18, you're going to get the new Venom. They're very, very similar, feel almost exactly the same to me, but this one is a little smoother on the slow crawl just because the gearing with the SCX and FCX combination is not as smooth as this overall. So that's a couple things to note. One is I did change this servo because the one that came on the Cayman just kind of crapped out on me, so end up going to this OGRC, and I moved these links up from here. I just didn't like them way down here. I don't know if that really helped a lot, but at the time, in my opinion, I just did it, and I was going to cut this off. Honestly, I haven't ran this in probably 4 or 5 months. I don't know. It's been a good while. So kind of curious to see how it compares. I did add the brass outer portal covers and aluminum inner here. The only reason I did the inner is because I've stripped several of these screws out on the FCX axles, and so a lot of times I just change that to like aluminum or something. So we do have the brass there, aluminum inner. I don't think that has overdrive, but don't hold me to that on that. And then this, I really just added the brass inner and outer portal covers on the front. So I think our weight is kind of a wash between them. I did move my electronics from here down. I run the battery up here now, and I put some bands on to kind of keep the front end down and move the shocks around a little bit. So that's the mods that I've really done to these. I'm going to try to just run these wheels and tires on both. So I'm going to run some lines with this, then I'm going to swap these wheels and tires over to this one and run the same lines. That way they're at least on the same wheels and tires, and we'll just see how they perform. So let's get these things out and do a little running. So it is worth noting that I've tried a lot of different wheels on these two, and with the portal axles and like the brass diff covers, clearance is pretty hard to get sometimes. You almost need like a 0 offset wheel. These are the Treal wheels, and I flipped the hex to kind of run them deep dish. These fit very well on the FX18 and the Cayman. And then these brass wheels right here, I think they're Injora. I'm not even 100% sure. Fit them both pretty well. So I'll link both of these in the description, but just know it's a little bit of a bear trying to get a wheel that fits these really well without doing like some wideners or something like that. So both of these work really well, and I am running 3S on both of these. All right, so I did want to go ahead and do sort of an uphill on this board that I made a long time ago for our incline test, because when running these, it was so close that it was hard to tell. At times, the FX18 seemed like it was more planted and just caught a little more traction, it seemed to grab a little better. But then sometimes the Cayman seemed like it did uphill stuff better. So I wanted to test both of these on this board, and we'll kind of see what they can do. Now I'm going to do this without the body, because that way not everybody's going to run this body on their Cayman, right? So that way, no matter what body you pick, whether you're going to run the stock body with this or something like this one or whatever, you know what the chassis underneath will do. And it's less about one has a full body and one has a half cab, right? So one thing I wanted to show you with this FX18, and I talk about this a little bit, but the slack in the drive line on this is pretty wild when you go from forward to reverse. So let me just show you here. You'll see this motor start turning. Turning. And I think now we've got the slack out. See that? Because you can see the tires start to turn. Now when I go back to forward, now we're really starting to pull. So there is a ton of slack in this drive line. At times it kind of can help you because you'll hear that motor turning, you know you're getting ready to start moving, and then you'll see it just barely move. But at times it's also pretty annoying. So just know, I think most of that's coming from this transmission. I don't know, because this doesn't, it has portals as well and it don't seem to be as bad, but we'll check that out in a minute. But let's get with this test first. All right, so we're at about 59 degrees. That's really about all this thing's wanting. We may get a hair more out of it, but you can see it's really lifting that left front tire. Overdrive would probably help that. You can hear these gears. They are definitely loud, and that does have grease in it, I promise. Let's try to go 60 and just see if it can get basically 60 here. So it is pulling 60, and you can see the drag brake holds well. I'm not on the throttle. I just keep thinking it's not going to get any more, and then it does. We're going to have to move this. I have to put some magnets on here to hold this thing still because it wants to slide. 61. There's no way. Wow. I really didn't think it was going to do that. Oh, almost to the top, and it flips. So I'm going to say 61 is really the max right now, because it can get started up this. Well, you've seen it. Oh, now we're steeper probably because we've moved. Yeah, so really, technically, I'm going to give it probably 60.5. Is definitely the max you're going to get. It looked like we were possibly going to get 61 there, and then I kind of looped out. So let's swap these tires onto the Cayman, and we'll run the exact same test. All right, so one thing I found out for sure while doing all this testing is the Swamp Kings look pretty wicked on this thing. I kind of like that setup. So now we got the Cayman at 60.4. Same wheels and tires, no body. So let's check our slack here. There's still slop in there, but it's not as bad, I don't think. Not near as bad. That's unreal. All right, so let's see. I've got this set at almost 61. It's 60.8. Let's shoot for 61. You'll notice the Cayman is much more quiet. But you'll also see that the gearing don't work quite as well. When I start trying to pull up this, it'll really start to kind of glitch and, I don't know, like have a little fit. You'll see it. It's actually pulling the 61. I mean, it's really all at once. So they're almost dead even. I mean, like, the FX started up that as well. Neither one of them's really going to pull it great, but that's pretty crazy for basically RTR trucks. So 60.2. Let's see what we get here. You see every now and then a little more jumpy with this setup for sure. See, there's what I mean. Like, you can really tell when the FOC kicks in and out on this setup with the gearing it has. It's much more noticeable. But it's definitely going to pull like 60.5 probably. Pretty much dead even between these two when it comes to that. All right, so let's check our side hill really quick. This does have the battery installed, powered up, ready to go. Again, without the body, just so you know what the chassis is capable of. And obviously, you can add more weight. You can move your shocks around. You can change the performance slightly, but we're at about 58 right there, and it dumped. So let's check the FX18 and see what we get with it. All right, so we've got the FX18 now, battery installed, powered up. Almost the exact same, 57, 58, somewhere in there. So the first test I kind of wanted to do here was just a quick turning radius, and I just start the trucks in the same exact spot and turn full left and see where they end. And then I'll mark the outer edge of the tire here. Now this is the Cayman. I have moved the screws from the steering knuckle to the backside on it and got a little bit more steering out of it. Dual rates turned all the way up on both of these. And you'll see the Cayman actually with the FCX axles turned a little bit sharper. I mean, probably very, very little bit, but still it was a little bit tighter turning radius. And then here, I didn't really run them together to check speed. Because I was swapping the wheels and tires, but the Cayman definitely has more wheel speed overall, but it's a little harder to control at times. And then I just took these things out and ran some of the same lines with them. At times I did kind of slow down or speed up the video a hair just to even the videos out a bit, because running them side by side, maybe I hit something a little bit faster with one truck than I did the other, you know, here and there. But overall, these performed very similar. You know, there were times where maybe one would grab traction a little bit quicker than the other, but really not enough difference between the two to be able to tell much of a difference. It felt like the clearance with the Cayman, because the body is so much more narrow, was definitely an advantage. That's one thing with the FX18. This Power Wagon body that's on it is real wide, and at times you really drag the side of the body and hang it up on stuff. So going with a more narrow body or something just like the Hobgoblin that's on the Cayman here on it would definitely help that. It's kind of odd when it came to the uphill climbs, because sometimes it felt like the FX18 got a little better traction, but the Cayman was able to go uphill better
overall, in my opinion. There's a couple places it struggles and flips that the FX didn't, but it's probably just kind of the way I drive it. It's a little more touchy and got a lot more punch, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But when it come to a couple just straight up kind of climbs, it seemed to do just slightly better. Both of these, I feel like if we put some overdrive in the front, it would help them tremendously. So I don't think I ever installed overdrive in my Cayman. I ran it the way it came, and I never changed it. So, for a long time, overdrive really wasn't available for it, and I haven't drove it in a good while. So I don't think it has any overdrive in it. And you'll see here, it kind of looped out on this climb, didn't do real well. The FX stayed a little more planted, it seems like, on this one, but it also kind of struggled getting up this. And I've hit this at times and went straight up it, and then sometimes you just hit it and you have to fight with it a little bit. I don't know, it's a weird little climb, but they were almost just dead even when it comes to performance. I feel like maybe the FX downhill's slightly better, just because probably the battery's in the rear there, and the Cayman has nothing installed in the rear. So going downhill, I'd probably give it a slight edge. I like the clearance on the Cayman. It just seemed to really have the clearance, but a lot of it is just the body. The overhang of that body sticking out to the side on the FX just drags on, any kind of jagged rocks sometimes. But I think you can tell there, it felt like, anyways, to me, the FX was a little more planted going downhill, but I didn't struggle too much with the Cayman. It was able to do everything. And I really like the punch that the Cayman has. Now, some people may prefer the overall smoother throttle of the FX18. It is definitely smoother. The Cayman is very touchy. If you haven't drove one, if you bump the throttle, like it's really going. You have to be very easy on it. You can adjust throttle curve and stuff, but it still just has crazy punch. It's like there's nothing dragging or holding you back, really. So in that case, the drag brake's not quite as strong as the FX18. And you can see here, going down this, I think the FX stays a little more planted and did a little bit better going down that climb. You can see there, both of these are on 3S and had plenty of punch to do everything on the course, really. There's one hop over line where I hop over a rock that the Cayman, it didn't make it first jump either. Neither made it on the first really attempt, but it had the punch to make it. If it had got the right bounce, I feel like it would have definitely just popped over it. Whereas the FX, I think, was just going to struggle to pop over it as well. But they both had solid wheel speed. Here going down again, I was taking my time a little bit more with the FX probably than I did the Cayman. Not because it was any less capable, it was just kind of how I was driving at the moment. But this line right here, I think the Cayman seemed to just hook this and go up this a little bit better, even though it's a tiny bit shorter. The wheelbase of it is just a couple millimeters shorter than the FX18. It was able to hook that and go up a little bit easier, but overdrive would really make a difference here for the FX. It would help that front pull and kind of suck the center of the chassis and everything into that rock and really help the grip and the traction and help it pull up that easier. So the FX18 is definitely louder than the Cayman. That's one thing I noticed. I mean, sometimes you just really hear that thing just rah, like it's just ripping, And, I mean, it is all metal gears. The Cayman has all metal gears now, I think, in it. I'm not sure if I put the metal diffs in it or not, but I think I did. So I think some of it's just echoing through that full body, but it is definitely louder. And this here, I tried to go a little bit farther to the right, I think, with the FX in the original attempt right there, and then I just had to hit it again. But both of these ended up getting that climb. I actually did make it straight up it with the Cayman first attempt, and this is one spot where the FX didn't seem more planted, where like it was getting more traction. So it just kind of varied a little bit back and forth. Honestly, these two are so close in performance that it's pretty crazy, really. And, you know, the FX, obviously, if we change the body or eliminate like that rack or anything, move the battery and stuff down to some sliders to get the battery off the rear, like, I think it's really going to do even better. So the slack in the driveline is definitely very noticeable at times with the FX18, but then the Cayman is slightly more jumpy, jerky, a little harder to get a smooth slow crawl. You really kind of notice when the FOC kicks in and out on it more, in my opinion. It's just overall a smoother experience with the FX18, just because I think the gearing and stuff works better than what the Cayman has. Obviously, the shocks on the FX18 are way better, in my opinion. That's my major fuss with the Cayman. I'm not a huge fan of the links, but they work. The shocks, once they get dirty, they bind terrible. Like, they are very, very bad about just completely sticking. And they're not even oil shocks, you know, they're just friction shocks. But that's my major complaint with the Cayman, is the shocks. Honestly, they are not great. You know, mine do okay. They're moving freely because I don't get them filthy a lot. You know, I mostly run on this type surface or just pure rock. I don't do a whole lot of dirt and creeks and stuff like that with this truck. So mine don't get terribly dirty, but if they do get any kind of gunk in them, they are going to stick bad. The FX18 has some very good oil shocks on it, and actually I think they're going to be quite a few people's favorite shocks if they continue to hold up like they have been. I've not had them leak or anything like that, so definitely an upgrade there that you get with this truck as well. So for the $200, you're not going to be upset with either one of these. Obviously, the FX18 is the better deal. You're getting completely ready to run. Definitely just getting like the transmitter and receiver and ESC is a big deal. Maybe you're going to change wheels and tires and body. That's kind of a wash, but that's quite a bit of value you're picking up for free, basically, between these two. And then you get the oil shocks, and the truck performs almost exactly the same, and actually a little smoother slow crawl. Now, you do have the kind of slop in the driveline, which is worse on it, in my opinion, but it's not a deal breaker. Hopefully, Furitek follows through with the overdrive gears for the FX118, because this climb right here, neither one of these trucks wanted anything to do with this, and really overdrive in the front is a game changer on something like this. It allows that front to grab a little bit more and kind of hook and pull you into the rock. It'll kind of suck the belly in, and then you can climb up it. Whereas not having that overdrive, the rear just eventually loops you out. So you could really, we need kind of some underdrive for the Cayman, and we need some overdrive for the front of the FX. So both need just a little bit of work, you know, tuning. Neither one of these chassis are really a favorite of mine. I maybe prefer the Cayman a little bit, but I kind of like where they're going with the body mounting on the FX, I think. Both of them, I'm not a fan of how the links attach and like the overall skid sort of setup. So just, you know, not my favorite like overall chassis or anything, but both very solid performers. So for the price, they're both good deals. The FX, like I said, it's a total game changer as far as what we're getting in an RTR for the price. So you guys let me know what you think about these two, which one you prefer. If you have the Cayman, are you going to pick up the FX? Just let me know what you think about them. You know, I like to hear what everybody thinks, and let me know what else you want to see on these things. So definitely
Going to try to get some more running in with the FX. I got a lot of stuff coming up. New motor for the TRX4M. I'm going to work on the high trail, kind of maybe I'm going to throw $100 at that thing and see what it'll do. You know, I mentioned in the video with it and the McHugh mod that $100 I could really make the Traxxas perform. So I may shoot at that. And the new axial is on the way, hopefully one of these days, whenever it ships. And so we'll get some time in with that as well. You guys let me know what all you want to see. I appreciate everybody watching. I will link these trucks and everything in the description. And I appreciate everybody sticking around. Peace.